Okay guys, so I'm finally gonna do the story time for the Zach Bagans Haunted Museum, but I wanted to give you guys first background information onto why I think most of this stuff happened. The first thing, of course, is, believe it or not, I am sensitive to spirits. This is something that has ran in the family, apparently, where basically I can't talk to them, but I definitely can hear them. And I have a thing about seeing shadow spirits. Like, I always see these shadows or sometimes these bad omens. I will tell you that story. But other than that, I usually can hear them. I cannot speak to them or communicate that way. But I actually accidentally trained myself into doing that. So, trained myself, and it ran in the family. Like, there were family members that did have the ability to talk to spirits. And part 2 is coming out. So, what ended up happening was me and my boyfriend decided for Valentine's Day that we wanted to go to Vegas. And one of the main things that I've been dying to go see is the Haunted Museum. I am a fan of Zach Bagans and the Ghost Adventures crew. I've watched them for probably, I don't know, more than 13 years. So my hope was to see him or his mom, because I know that his mom works there. But also my goal was to see this museum because it's like a once-in-a-lifetime experience. So we decided that we were going to go. As we got closer to the date, I just kept having bad feelings and thinking about stuff that I knew, like, were going to be at that museum that were going to bother me. For example, dolls. I will give you background into that later, but I do not like dolls. And then 2, I've seen videos of people passing out. I've seen things, heard stories, and I'm just like, what if something happens to me because I am sensitive to spirits? Here comes part 3. Because the days before the museum, everything was fine. You know, we could walk for hours and hours. We explored the strip. We had fun. And I started to get more excited, but at the same time nervous. So once we got to the Haunted Museum, when we were standing outside and we were getting closer to going in, I noticed that, you know, I was excited, I was nervous, I was feeling all these emotions. So I went to check my heart rate, and my heart rate was high. Like, the highest it's ever been. Let me show a photo of it. That is how high my heart rate was. However, as soon as we got into the museum, I calmed down for some reason. I think it was because at that moment it was like a feeling of relief that I was actually there. But at the same time too, I was still nervous that I felt like something was going to happen or something was going to result from being there. Part 4 coming up. As we were going on the tour, there were a couple of mistakes that I made. For example, leaning on objects and bumping into objects. But the thing is, when there's like 20 people on the tour and you're trying to move out of the way for them, what do you think is going to happen? But anyways, what ends up happening is one of the rooms, which you guys may find famous about like people passing out, is, I call it the Conjuring Room because I cannot remember the name of those two, the couple that does, you know, the ghost hunting stuff. But basically, we went into that room, and I was one of the first 2 people that walked in. And I just smelled sulfur, which is like rotten eggs. It's very, like, strong, and my nostrils were burning, and it was just like, I asked my boyfriend as he came in, too. I was like, do you smell that? And he's like, no. But I guess there was other stuff that happened. Like, usually that's a sign that there's a demon or something around. Part 5 is coming up. Part 5. So, what ended up happening was, when we were in there, in that room, there was a couple things that happened. First things first, I started swaying, like, as if I was about to pass out, and that freaked out my boyfriend. The second thing is that I felt like something was choking on me, like choking me. And what ended up happening was basically, I didn't want to alarm anybody, I didn't want to freak anybody out, so basically I would just let out like a small little cough, and then as we were walking out, I started like, you know, just another small little cough, like, but my boyfriend did notice that. Also, what I noticed is during the museum, I felt needles like driving into my head in different points, and it was giving me a headache right here, and it just hurt a lot, especially when I was in that room. So basically, I think something was attacking me. Storytime is about to be, there's so many videos I have to do, but part 6 coming up. Afterwards, we went to the Dybbuk box room, and this ties to another story time that I will do. And I bumped into one of the display cases that had an open Dybbuk box. So After that, basically we went to a couple more rooms, and then the final room, I think, was the demon house room. And if you watch the documentary, then you know what demon house is. And the thing that freaked me out the most about it was that it was a black family that was dealing with this stuff. So of course I felt like on alert because one, I was the only black person on that tour, so it bothered me a lot. After that, we ended up going to the store, gift shop. And what ended up happening was we met Zach Bagans' mom, which was really cool, but also we had some experiences in the store where we would smell things and then all of a sudden the scent is gone. So it made me realize that something was with us. Part 7 is part 7. So what ends up happening is we had this feeling of like heaviness. There's a heavy feeling that when you are in the museum. And as soon as we left the museum, it felt like the weight was just lifted off of our shoulders finally. So what ends up happening is we get to the hotel and it just seems like things are perfectly fine. You know, we're talking about the museum, relaxing. And what ends up happening is, you know, I decided to take off my necklace because it just felt tight on my neck. So after that, I took off my necklace, and that's when I find red markings. Ignore my double chin, but right here, I don't know if you guys can see, right underneath my mole, there's like red. It's a little bit red. And my boyfriend decided to take a photo. And then after that, I found scratches on my back, which I did not do, by the way. Trevor took a photo of it, and it actually is technically 3 scratches. You can't see the third one, but there are 3 scratches. I wanted to show you guys the necklace so that you guys have an idea of what it is. On there is an ankh. There's like a peace symbol. There's a cross on here, so maybe it also induced something to attack me. But my boyfriend also connected it as the spirit was using this to choke me in the museum. So that's why I was feeling that choking feeling. So after we ended up going walking, and as we were walking the strip, I could not walk. It was hard for me. My ankles were hurting really bad, like my legs were hurting, and that was unusual for me because in my job, I walk all the time, all day long. So it makes no sense. So what ends up happening is he takes me back to the hotel and he asked me like, oh, do you want anything? I'm like, I just want water. That's all I want. And I was gonna go to sleep. So this is when things get scary. Part 8 is gonna come up, but something ended up happening to me while I was there. I think this is part 8, I can't remember. Anyways, I'm alone in the hotel and I started feeling breathing. I'm laying there and it's just like I feel breathing on the side of my face, and the first thing I think of course, okay, maybe the air conditioning is on. Air conditioning was not on. I was like, okay, maybe the window above was open. Window was not open, it was closed all the way. So then I turned to the other side and I start feeling breathing on the other side on my face, like puffs of air. So I started texting my mom and Trevor, telling them something's here. Trevor, get up here, you know. I'll show you guys the message. This is one of the messages that I sent to my mom. And these are the messages I sent to Trevor when I was free. And that was the other weird thing, was that I had a fever at the same time. Finally, Trevor comes into the room and I had him come over and I told him to just stick his hand. I didn't tell him what was fully going on, but I just told him to stick his hand right here around my face to see if he can Trevor puts his hand right here and he doesn't feel any air. He doesn't feel anything, but I feel the air still blowing on me. So what ends up happening is he goes over to the bed and he lays down, and I'm laying there in the bed and I'm laying up like this, and the breathing is hitting me on all sides of my face. It's blowing on different sides. And I ended up telling him too. I was freaking out so bad. And, you know, at that point I was like, I can't take this anymore, and I fell asleep. I knocked out. But after that, nothing else happened. Nothing else happened after that. There was just the fever, all that other stuff. But my ankles for the past couple of days when I was, you know, walking in Vegas, they were just hurting so bad. Like, I've never had that pain before. Like, I actually ended up crying. And my boyfriend put 2 and 2 together, and he said maybe it was the spirit trying to enter, or maybe trying to possess you. Because usually I think points of entrance, they are in pain. I'm not sure. Museum, we get back home and things started going back to normal. My ankles weren't hurting and I was more relaxed. However, my mom, hearing about all the stuff that happened and even getting those messages, she bought me sage, which is why I noticed in some of the comments you guys mentioned that it's the wrong type of sage, but at the same time too, we have a sort of background where we can technically use this sage, but at the same time too, she wanted to make sure that I was safe. And days later, that's what ended up happening. Months later, that's what ended up happening. But there was a couple of incidents that happened when we were here, when I got here. There would be voices, noises. I would see things. My dog ended up attacking me in a way. He started biting me. So I even had the scariest dream relating to the Dybbuk box. Maybe a couple weeks from now, I will talk about the Dybbuk box and that dream relating to it, because it left me shook. I never forgot a single detail about that dream because I feel like it's real. And then, of course, Loki and his attacking me. Basically, he would go to this corner, and I guess this happened when we were at this haunted museum. He would go to this corner and he would just act different. He would come over to me, try and bite my clothing, and it was as if something just like took over him. But Loki would see things, react to things, hear things, and I would hear things. And what ended up happening was we ended up hearing a bang on our roof, and basically I flipped out, Loki flipped out, and Mom said, just sage the house. Because it honestly, there's no way somebody could get on the roof, but at the same time too, there's an attic above us, so something could be in the attic. But that is the end of the story time. If you guys want to hear about the Dybbuk box or about any of the other stuff that happened, even my past, you know, like the video, obviously, comment below and let me know. If anything else happens, obviously, I will let you guys know. And I hope you guys have a good day. See ya.